Hello, everyone. It's Menenberg. We're going to do SAQ stuff again. Okay. In my earlier videos, I've talked about how to identify what you need to know and what you need to put down on paper when you're looking at these prompts. In this video, we're going to look at a stimulus-based prompt and see how we can manage our time well and understand the gist of a passage. Okay. Now, if you're taking the U.S. history test or the European history test, it's the same concept. This is a world passage, but it still applies. So let's take a look, shall we? Now, skills, right? We've talked about this before. I'm going to re-emphasize it for you again, and that is you need to read the prompts first, all three prompts. Remember, they've changed the format of this test. It's now 5 SAQs if you're taking the digital version. That's a total of 15 prompts with 80 minutes to answer them. You got to be efficient. When you see a passage, by the way, you're going to have stimulus-based SAQs for 4 out of 5 on this test. In this case, we got a passage, and I'm going to get to the sourcing in a minute, but let's read the prompts first. It says, explain one way in which the passage illustrates a response to European colonialism. Okay, we know about different responses. We just got to figure out where it is and what kind of response it is, right? That's what we're looking for in the passage. Prompt B, one way in which the circumstances of the speech. Wow, that sounds a lot like context. DBQ skills, people. There's overlap. What a shock. One way in which the author's point of view, again, DBQ skills, is significant for illustrating. So here's to tell you, why does the point of view matter? Because it illustrates how European ideologies, so you probably want to know what ideology we're talking about, influenced the development of Indian society in the 19th century. Okay, so we have a little bit more of a situation. We know it's an Indian society. Great. Now, you're looking at this passage as 2 paragraphs. Not a ton to read, but some are longer, some are shorter, fine. You got to read them quickly, though. I actually clocked myself, and I'm not trying to brag, but I finished this passage in 27 seconds. It may sound fast to you, but people, you got to get quick. Even if you take twice as much time as I did, that's still under a minute. Time yourself. How long does it take you to read this? I promise you, if you read the prompts first and then read the stimulus, you're going to cut down your overall time by a good bit. Because if you don't, you're going to read. And there's a couple of reasons you read the prompts first. The first is so you know what to read for, but the second is so that you can plan your response. Some of these prompts have a little bit of similarity and overlap, particularly when it pertains to like the circumstances of the speech and point of view. Those are kind of similar. So you want to not double dip, because you will not get points if you double dip your evidence for B and C. So plan it out. All right. Now, as I've said for multiple choice, it's crucial that you read the source line first after you read the prompts. So in this case, it says Syed Ahmad Khan, Indian Muslim educator and political reformer, speech given before the Muslim community of Meerut in northern India, 1888. Again, for most of these, you're not going to have an idea or have heard of the person or the place. You might have a general concept of the geographical location of India in the late 19th century, fine. But you want to pull out that he's an Indian dude, he's an educator and political reformer. That's kind of important, probably. And he's talking to a Muslim group of people. Okay, Northern India. What did Northern India become after decolonization? Spoiler alert, it became Pakistan. Okay, so you got to have some of that in the back of your mind. You also have studied the history of India, and you know that Muslims and Hindus have historically kind of been at odds. Prior to the British arrival, we had the Mughal Empire, right? Muslim minority ruling a Hindu majority nation. And prior to that, you had kind of warfare, right? There's warfare between the two groups. There still is some, strife today between these two groups. So you know that. You should have that in your brain somewhere. And just by reading the source line, that should trigger those types of content details from your brain, okay, just in general. So when you're reading this passage, you want to see, okay, how is it a response? Read it quickly. You're going to understand quickly that we're talking about the formation of the Indian National Congress. I'm going to spoil it for you, right? You can read it on your own. It's pretty quick. It's about the Indian National Congress. You've studied that. You can talk about it. But remember, you've got to pull stuff that is beyond the stimulus in order to get the specific evidence points. You got to do that, my friends. Otherwise, you're just going to be repeating or summarizing the passage. Nobody's going to be impressed with that. No offense. I'm not impressed. You shouldn't be either. Okay, part B, circumstances. This is context. That means what is going on at the time, roughly, within a few years of the this speech in 1888. And that, of course, is the formation of the Indian National Congress. That sounds a little bit like what we might have, but the reason they form in Part A is more at play in Part A than in Part B when we're talking about what that Congress, who is involved, who is it comprised of, and who are the stakeholders. Why does that matter? Well, because again, you got the Muslim and Hindu conflict, but you have them unified or aligned for this time being of throwing off the shackles, and you have the Sepoy Rebellion. That's also kind of closely aligned timeline-wise. There's stuff going on that's causing the INC to form. That's causing them to kind of try to unify, at least for a period of time. And then we have the point of view question. He's Muslim. He's a politician. Why does it matter? Again, he's concerned in terms of European ideology. We got a democracy forming. He's concerned that a democracy is going to cause his Muslim minority population that he's part of to be possibly oppressed by a Hindu majority population. Okay, so these are some of the things that are at play, but you got to get there in a hurry, my friends. Get there in a hurry, and the way you're going to do that, as I've said time and time again, is by reading those prompts first and by reading that stimulus in a very focused and efficient way. Don't just read it blind. Don't read it multiple times. Read it actively, mark it up, but you're not going to have time to look up that dude's history on Wikipedia. You're not going to have time to find out where that is on a map. You should know generally about imperialism and what went down in India. That's just part of the content knowledge. You've studied this. Harness that information in the middle of a test. Time yourself. You should be a little bit more than 4 minutes for A, a little bit more than 4 minutes for B, and a little bit more than 4 minutes for C. If you're not there, it's time to keep practicing. We got to get faster. We got to get better. And we got to get specific. All right, people. That's it for now. If you have questions or need help with something else, let me know. Write it in the comments. We'll hopefully keep these videos coming, and I hope they're helpful. As we wait for the next one, just remember, my friends, life's about choices. We'll see you next time.